Word number 5, the last one for our morning session. Paradox. It's really amazing the power that a little 2-letter word has in our lives. The word or. O-R. It's not operating room, but it's or. Or forces us to make a choice between one thing or another. And there's nothing wrong with choice. It speaks of freedom. However, it becomes a problem when we put one choice over and against another choice. And that's when dualism creeps in and makes enemies and or strangers of the other. And don't we see that reflected in our politics, in our church, in our cultures, in our world? The dualism of either-or thinking hampers us and threatens to destroy us. We are called to be both and people who are able to shoulder the blessing and burden of paradox. Don Gergen gives a wonderful image when he's talking about paradox. He'll simply ask one of 2 questions. Is it better to breathe in or to breathe out? Is it better to be pregnant or to give birth? Well, clearly the answer to both questions is yes. We need both. We need to breathe in and out, and if we don't, then we're going to die. If we're pregnant, we have to give birth. And if we want to give birth, then we have to be pregnant. We cannot have either or. Paradox is at the heart of our theology. Think about it. The incarnation, the divine becoming human, the Trinity, 3 in 1. The resurrection, life from death. The mystery of God, the Alpha and the Omega, the beginning and the end. And paradox is also at the heart of our world when we speak of emptiness and fullness, or poverty and wealth. Our sister Annie Willits once stated, paradox is not just a figure of speech. It is a way to live in the midst of chaos, confusion, and crisis. I have a little guest up here. Some green thing. I don't know what it is. It's creating a little confusion for me. Anyway, Annie goes on to say that paradox, the greatest paradox of all, is the invisible presence of God and the visible absence of God. The invisible presence of God is grace. The invisible absence of God is sin. In having paradox written on our hearts, we take up the mantle of naming grace in our world, while at the same time articulating the sin of the absence of God in our midst. That is our preaching, to name both. It is something we can do only because we maintain the balance of action and contemplation in our lives. Despite the constant preaching of the story of Martha and Mary that leads to that over and against action contemplation, the faithful disciple needs both. And Meister Eckhart gave a sermon that spoke to this whole idea. He said that Jesus wasn't comparing contemplation and action, but simply stating that Mary was engaged in the necessary part, not the better part, the necessary part, because she wasn't ready for the diakonia, which Martha, was about. Diakonia, that Greek word meaning service. Martha had already immersed herself in the word of Jesus and was able to be out serving. Mary still needed that time, as we all need, to be immersed in the Word of God, to become pregnant with this Word of God before she could be of service to the Word. And the same holds true for us.